Evan, Scott Griffin here, Smashmouth Radio. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
We're doing great. I appreciate you hanging out with us here. And obviously, Reuben Foster did not show up yesterday. The team did not want him to for obvious reasons. Just give us a lay of the land from the last few days of that situation.
Yeah, definitely. I think right now everything's going about as you would expect it to. With what Reuben's dealing with right now, it's kind of a situation where everybody has to just wait and let the process kind of take its course. I think maybe a lot of kind of fans were thinking, or, just people outside of the organization were thinking that maybe him going there yesterday, being in front of media, would have just been a bad situation. So taking him outside of that, just letting the legal system run its course and just letting that happen.
So I guess we just wait on the court to actually do its duty, right? I know it's probably a dumb question to ask for a timetable and different things like that, but what do we think?
Well, it is. It's kind of a frustrating situation. Reuben's such a likable guy. It's horrible news to hear this. It's just an awful situation all around. As the court goes through their process, yesterday they dropped the kind of the misdemeanor ammunition charge. It still leaves 3 felony charges, domestic assault, kind of dissuading a witness, and then, of course, there is the felony weapons charge. So that is what is left. Losing the ammunition misdemeanor charge was kind of that was expected. That was a California law specifically regarding the size of the ammunition clip. So that's why that was released. So it's just a matter now of kind of letting the court do its process.
It's an odd thing. It's a bad thing, obviously, with John Lynch. He's got to be frustrated because he stuck his neck out for this guy with all the problems at the Combine last year with the injury issues and made him a first-round pick. I'm sure he kind of feels a little bit betrayed, does he not?
I got to say that I would expect betrayed to be a common thought. It's really hard from the media standpoint and fans in general, because when Reuben came in, this was one of the, high energy, such a likable guy. You couldn't see him in any video where he wasn't smiling. Just genuinely seemed like a nice person. So to hear news that there's this domestic violence, accusation, and it doesn't go with what you saw of Reuben. So it's hard for people to kind of accept that. And I would imagine spending such a high pick on it makes it even harder, because I think the reality is, if anything is even remotely true regarding this domestic violence, that's something you just can't have on a team. And it's going to be a hard decision to make. Everybody wants to take emotion out of it, but those charges and those accusations, if those are true, you can't have that on your football team.
All right, so as you said, that the magazine part that was supposedly illegal or whatever had been dropped, and that was a misdemeanor anyway. 3 felonies. This is my thinking. You tell me the lay of the land again. If just one of the 3 is found to be true, I think he's off the 49ers. Is that your take?
Personally speaking, obviously I'm more of a fan than anything myself. I think the domestic violence is going to be the biggest key. There were reports that he potentially punched this lady in the head 8 to 10 times was the quote. You think of some other high-profile cases down the line regarding Ray Rice, some of the other ones, and if that's even remotely true, I think that's an automatic cut. I personally wouldn't want him anywhere near my team. I think there is probably not anything worse. There's a lot of things that you can look at from a football standpoint, but you just don't hit women. And so I think if that one specifically has any credence to it whatsoever, that's an automatic cut. The weapons charges, that's an interesting one, especially with how things are going right now. But another thing that everybody kind of has to realize when regarding Reuben is it makes it so difficult to gauge all this, because he also had that issue where he was arrested and caught with marijuana recently in the when the off season first started.
That was here in Tuscaloosa. It was here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In January.
And that was kind of the big thing with Reuben, right? Is some of the original reports coming out of the draft was the nice kid, but he just hangs out with a bad crowd.
Right. Right.
Some of the people that follow us on Twitter and our website and everything will remember the day that happened. he had posted a video on Instagram Live with all of his friends hanging out in a hotel room, and I said, man, this does not look good. So you got to look at it from the big picture. Is he just a young kid that's making bad decisions? Is he around the wrong crowd? Does he need the Des Bryant treatment? Does he need a lot more help? I think no matter what, I want to make sure the kid gets help. I think Jed York, as an owner, is trying to make sure that happens too. But he's been very, very, very specific.
All right, but let me stop you there because I'm old school, all right? I think it's – and I know what you're saying. I think it's crazy that we sit here and have to talk about a guy getting help or having the right people around when you're talking about hitting women.
Absolutely.
An idiot should know not to hit women. If you've been raised by a pack of wolves, you should know you don't hit women. I understand what you're saying. I'm not getting on you at all. But I think that's sad that we've got to kind of soften the blow and not be direct here. And by the way, the show is Smashmouth Radio. So I think it's ridiculous that Reuben Foster, we've got to say that about him. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but see, for me, that's the other stuff, right? That's the, owning an assault rifle. That's the smoking weed and getting arrested for partying. For me, the red line is no different than yours. If you hit women, you're not going to be a 49er anymore. I would hope that no team would sign him after that. If that's true, there's no gray area there. You put your hand on a woman, and I mean, Reuben Foster is a very powerful, strong individual. There's no excuse, period. But if that's something that he's capable of doing, he does not belong on an NFL team.
Yeah, I mean, and if the allegations are true, 8 to 10 hits, ruptured eardrum, that's not slapping a woman once. I mean, and I'm not saying that's okay.
It's just,
obviously,
but you're right. It's
right.
As bad as it can get.
It's a degree. We're talking about degrees of violence here. 8 to 10 times. That's pretty darn violent.
Yeah. No, 100%. And that's I think if I were to guess, I think that's why the team is, really waiting until everything comes out, because it's such a serious accusation. You can't make any decisions yet until you know. I would imagine that they might have more information than us. Who knows? They might already know what their decision is, and they're just waiting for the details to come out.
Yeah, so that they can soften the blow with fans maybe or something, right?
Yeah, I just don't think there's anyone in the world that would be even remotely confused or surprised as if he gets cut immediately, if that's true.
And look, and as you know, kind of give the background to this, because the Niners have not been – they've been pretty quick to get rid of guys just with accusations over the years with their history of law enforcement and players, right? I mean, this is nothing new.
Brock was cut immediately when that was found out. Ahmad Brooks, he had an issue where there was some questions of validity, and in the end, he had so many issues before. Now, Ahmad Brooks had gotten caught hitting one of his fellow teammates over the head with a beer bottle at a bar, so there were some things there, but yeah, I don't know if there's many teams in the NFL right now that have worse luck picking players. Maybe it's not luck. Maybe it's just poor decision-making, but I think we'll find out pretty soon.
Well, we don't want them to become Bengals West. That's for sure. So
right.
Does John Lynch, here's the problem. You got the human lottery next week, right? So does he draft a linebacker just in case? Does, what are we talking about here as far as personnel?
Well, so the thing is before any of this news came out, a lot of people were mocking, if you look at any of the mock drafts, Roquan Smith out of Georgia was one of the bigger names to be seen at going 9. Now, personally, I've been looking at Harold Landry as an edge rusher. I thought that made sense. But even before this news, you had Malcolm Smith, who we signed in free agency last year. He got injured, was out for the season. And we had Brock Coyle from Seattle, who knew the defense under Robert Salah, that we brought him over, and he played kind of above expectations. So we already had a lot of people saying, hey, let's bring in Roquan Smith. What a great way to pair with Reuben Foster anyways.
Right.
Now we've just kind of shifted to well, hey, who knows? We'll take Roquan, and if everything goes perfect and, it didn't happen and good news for Reuben Foster, then he's got a great linebacker to play next to him. But if it's true and he gets cut, then that's the new Reuben Foster.
All right, and I've seen Minka there too, possibly, but you're thinking that's off the table now with this news.
personally speaking, and from the people that I've talked to, I think Minka, Harold Landry, Roquan Smith are all severe possibilities. You have to also look at, because of how many quarterbacks are actually being talked about in the top 10 and the potential of Buffalo and Arizona trading up, there's a chance that someone like Quentin Nelson, right, the guard, if he's available at 9, no one's saying no.
Oh, you got to get, he's life-changing almost, that guy.
Right. He's definitively the best player in the draft, but because everybody needs a quarterback, and that's what's crazy. It's the same with Saquon Barkley, right? These are players that have no business being at number 9, but this is an unprecedented draft. You've got so many quarterbacks looking to go in the top 5, top 6, top 7. It could push the best players in the draft out.
Yeah, that's how I view Minka Fitzpatrick. I would put him and Nelson as the best pure football players in the draft. About as can't miss as you can even do in this thing. You're right. I would put those two there for sure.
And then another thing, Nick Saban, he said it himself. Minka Fitzpatrick is, that's his boy, right?
Yeah.
He's got nothing but good things to say about his character, his body of work, and the 49ers need that right now.
Oh, that would be, what a coup. And maybe somebody, because he was quoted recently talking about Reuben Foster, somebody that if you do possibly can salvage a situation that can reach him and be a blanket of reason or something. You know what I mean? That might be a possibility.
Well, I'm not sure if you heard, but one of the interesting things, right, as a 49ers fan, one of the hardest things for me dealing with was learning that Richard Sherman was going to be a 49er. Seeing him wearing red and gold was just tough for all fans.
Yeah.
But one of the big kind of wow moments out of his court appearance the other day is that Richard Sherman was there, and he had said to the team that he wanted to make a point to be there for Reuben Foster and to mentor him, if it is one of those situations where Reuben does stay with the team. So Richard Sherman being a veteran, right, being a vocal leader when he was in Seattle, that was something that we were looking at. And then, as far as, we're talking in Tuscaloosa right now, that was the same concept for Minka. We want to, if we are going to take a defensive back, what better time to do it than when Richard Sherman can mentor them?